One of the greatest emotional blind spots in fish care is inconsistency in routine, which silently communicates instability to your aquatic companion. Fish are far more sensitive to patterns than many people realize. In nature, their survival depends on predictable cycles of light, temperature, and feeding. When you feed at random hours, switch lights on in the middle of the night, or suddenly rearrange the tank without warning, your fish experiences these disruptions as environmental threats. This unpredictability elevates stress hormones and keeps them in a subtle state of alertness instead of relaxation. Over time, that constant tension can dull their colors, reduce their appetite, and even shorten their lifespan. Love, from a fish's perspective, is not loud or dramatic. It is expressed through steady rhythms, gentle transitions, and a calm atmosphere that allows them to feel secure enough to explore their environment without fear. Overfeeding is another mistake that feels loving to you, but harmful to your fish. Many owners equate extra food with generosity, assuming that a well-fed fish is a happy fish. However, excess food quickly decomposes, polluting the water with ammonia and nitrites that irritate delicate gills and poison the environment. Even if your fish eagerly eats what you provide, the aftermath of poor water quality causes invisible suffering. Their breathing becomes labored, their immune system weakens, and they may retreat or become lethargic. True care requires discipline, portion control, and an understanding that a balanced diet, given in appropriate amounts, communicates thoughtfulness rather than neglect disguised as kindness. Ignoring water quality maintenance sends perhaps the strongest message of indifference. Fish live entirely immersed in their environment. Every breath they take depends on the chemical balance of the water. Skipping water changes, neglecting filter maintenance, or failing to monitor temperature and pH exposes them to chronic stress. While they cannot cry out, their bodies respond with faded coloration, clamped fins, erratic swimming, or unusual hiding. These are not random behaviors, but signals of discomfort. When you prioritize clean, stable water, you create a sanctuary where your fish can thrive physically and psychologically, reinforcing a sense of safety that mirrors affection. Constant tapping on the aquarium glass or allowing loud vibrations near the tank can deeply disturb your fish's sense of security. Fish are highly attuned to movement and pressure changes through their lateral line system, which detects vibrations in the water. What seems playful or harmless to you may feel like repeated shockwaves to them. Over time, they may associate your presence with sudden disturbance, darting away whenever someone approaches. Respecting their sensitivity by maintaining a calm environment helps them interpret your presence as non-threatening and protective. Housing incompatible species together is another critical error that disrupts emotional well-being. Fish have natural social hierarchies and territorial instincts that do not disappear in captivity. When peaceful species are forced to coexist with aggressive tank mates, they may endure constant chasing, fin nipping, or intimidation. Even if physical damage is minimal, the psychological stress of living under threat is significant. A loving aquarist researches compatibility, understands behavioral traits, and creates a community where each fish can exist without fear. Harmony in the tank reflects intentional care rather than accidental cruelty. A barren tank devoid of enrichment can make your fish feel exposed and vulnerable. In the wild, aquatic environments are rich with plants, rocks, roots, and shifting shadows that provide hiding spaces and exploration opportunities. When an aquarium lacks structure, fish often experience ongoing stress because they have nowhere to retreat when startled. This vulnerability can suppress natural behaviors and reduce overall vitality. Adding plants, caves, and varied textures does more than beautify the tank. It recreates a dynamic habitat where your fish can express curiosity, establish territories, and regulate stress naturally. Frequent unnecessary handling or chasing fish with a net for minor adjustments severely damages their sense of safety. Every capture activates a powerful survival instinct, flooding their bodies with stress hormones. Even if the event lasts only seconds, the memory of being pursued lingers. Repeated disturbances condition them to associate your approach with danger. Minimizing interference, planning tank maintenance carefully, and moving slowly when interaction is necessary helps preserve a calm relationship built on trust rather than fear. Inconsistent lighting patterns disrupt biological rhythms that fish rely on for health and emotional stability. Sudden exposure to bright light in a dark room can shock them, while leaving lights on for excessively long periods interferes with rest cycles. Fish need predictable day and night phases to regulate hormones, feeding patterns, and immune responses. A steady lighting schedule, ideally controlled by a timer, mirrors natural cycles and reinforces environmental stability. This consistency reassures them that their world is safe and reliable. Failing to observe your fish closely can unintentionally communicate neglect. Fish often display subtle changes in swimming style, posture, or appetite when something is wrong. Without attentive observation, these early warning signs go unnoticed until the problem becomes severe. Watching your fish daily not only strengthens your connection, but allows you to respond quickly to health concerns. This attentive presence is one of the purest forms of care, showing that their well-being truly matters. Rushing the tank setup process is another mistake that undermines trust before it even begins. Introducing fish into an uncycled aquarium exposes them to toxic ammonia spikes that burn gills and compromise immunity. Although the water may appear clear, the biological filtration system is not yet mature enough to process waste safely. Patience during the cycling phase demonstrates foresight and responsibility. By allowing beneficial bacteria to establish fully before adding fish, you create a stable foundation for long-term health, ensuring that your aquatic companion's first experience in their new home is one of safety rather than silent suffering. One of the most overlooked emotional signals in fish care is stress behavior that owners dismiss as normal. When a fish constantly hides, swims erratically, glass surfs, or isolates itself from tank mates, it is communicating discomfort. Many aquarists assume fish are simple creatures without emotional depth, but chronic stress behaviors are clear indicators that something in the environment feels unsafe. Ignoring these signs sends a powerful message of indifference. A loving fish keeper learns to read subtle body language, understanding that posture, fin position, breathing rate, and movement patterns are all forms of communication in a silent underwater world. Another major mistake is placing the aquarium in a high-traffic, noisy area of the home. While you may enjoy seeing your fish frequently, constant footsteps, slamming doors, loud music, or television vibrations can create ongoing stress. Fish are highly sensitive to low-frequency vibrations and sudden shadows passing over the tank. When their environment never truly quiets down, they struggle to relax fully. Choosing a calm, stable location for the aquarium shows consideration for their psychological comfort, transforming the tank from a display object into a protected habitat. Neglecting proper tank size is also a silent but powerful way of communicating disregard. Fish confined to spaces too small for their natural movement cannot express normal swimming patterns. Limited space increases aggression, reduces oxygen stability, and accelerates waste buildup. Even if the fish survives, survival is not the same as thriving. Providing adequate space demonstrates that you respect their biological needs rather than prioritizing convenience or decoration. Space, in an aquatic sense, equals freedom and security. Sudden temperature fluctuations can deeply unsettle your fish's sense of safety. Rapid changes caused by faulty heaters, direct sunlight, or inconsistent room temperatures shock their metabolism. Fish are ectothermic, meaning their body processes depend entirely on water temperature. When it swings unpredictably, they experience physical stress that weakens immunity and reduces vitality. Maintaining a stable, species-appropriate temperature communicates environmental reliability, which is one of the strongest foundations of trust in an aquarium setting. Failing to research species-specific needs is another way owners unintentionally show a lack of care. Not all fish thrive under the same conditions. Some require soft, acidic water, while others prefer harder, alkaline environments. Certain species need strong currents, while others feel safest in still waters. When fish are forced to adapt to unsuitable parameters, they may survive but remain in a constant state of mild distress. Love is expressed through knowledge, understanding the natural habitat of your fish and replicating it as closely as possible demonstrates genuine commitment. Overcleaning the tank can be just as harmful as neglecting it. Completely stripping decorations, replacing all filter media at once, or performing massive water changes too frequently disrupts beneficial bacteria colonies. This destabilizes the nitrogen cycle and creates invisible chemical swings. Fish perceive this as environmental chaos. Balanced maintenance, cleaning without destroying the biological foundation, reflects thoughtful stewardship rather than obsessive interference. Ignoring social needs can also create emotional strain. Some fish are schooling species that rely on group dynamics for comfort and security. Keeping them alone can result in withdrawn behavior, reduced activity, and heightened fear responses. Conversely, forcing solitary or territorial species into crowded community tanks generates tension and aggression. Understanding whether your fish thrives in groups or solitude is essential in creating an emotionally supportive environment. Using harsh lighting without shaded areas can make fish feel constantly exposed. In nature, light filters through plants, rocks, and shifting water surfaces. Bright, unrelenting aquarium lighting without hiding spots leaves fish feeling visible and vulnerable. Incorporating floating plants or decor that creates gentle shadows allows them to regulate exposure. This subtle environmental adjustment can dramatically reduce stress and promote natural, confident swimming patterns. Treating illness too late due to denial or procrastination is another sign your fish may interpret as neglect. Early symptoms such as white spots, frayed fins, or unusual buoyancy often go unnoticed or dismissed. By the time action is taken, the condition may have worsened significantly. Prompt response to health issues shows vigilance and dedication. Fish may not understand medicine, but they benefit from swift intervention that restores comfort and stability. Finally, seeing your fish purely as decoration rather than a living being with instincts and sensitivities shapes every other mistake. When the aquarium becomes just an aesthetic feature, emotional engagement fades. Fish thrive when their keeper observes them, learns their patterns, and takes pride in creating a balanced ecosystem. Love in fish keeping is quiet, patient, and informed. It is expressed through consistency, protection, and respect for the delicate underwater world that your fish depends on entirely.